Thanks everybody for coming. Jeff Hardison is my name. I work for Clearbit. And what I'm going to talk to you about today is how do you create either a product marketing department when you don't have one, or reestablish it so that it's better aligned with various departments in your company, be it marketing department, be it sales, be it product management. And I have done this really poorly for many years, and I feel like now I'm at B- level of doing this. I think it's one of the most challenging things to do in product marketing. I've worked at Hewlett Packard, which was 100,000 people in product marketing. I've worked at Envision. I worked with Fran Larkin. If any of you saw his talk earlier today, he's amazing. Worked with him at Envision, which is 1,000 people. And currently I'm at Clearbit, which is 100 people. That was just establishing its product marketing department. And it's bumpy, whether you're trying to establish it for the first time like I'm doing at Clearbit, or you're finding that there's some tension with other departments when you join and you want to realign it. So if you're ever feeling kind of stressed out by this or frustrated or wondering if anybody else has struggled with this, you're not alone. Let's see if I can get this to work here. I'll just use this. Okay. Just a real quick thing about Clearbit. We are, if you don't know of us, we mostly work with B2B SaaS companies, companies like Stripe and Slack. We provide data to both B2B sales teams and marketing teams. We can identify people that are visiting your site if they're anonymous and de-anonymize them. We help the sales team enrich Salesforce records. What's interesting, I think, about the company, one of the reasons I joined wasn't this, even though I've worked in MarTech. It was because of the culture of the company. They were profitable by month 4, which I thought was really neat. Their CEO was, he's 29 now, and he dropped out of high school to work for Twitter and Stripe as one of their early engineers. And he's built this company, and he has a lot of interesting management culture that he uses that has made it easier for me to be a product marketer. There's a lot of mutual accountability there where he literally will do a survey of employees and ask them, what am I doing wrong as a CEO? And he'll list in an all-company meeting the things that people said and have a plan for how he can change. To me, that's just mind-blowing and light years ahead of even people twice his age. But it's made it easier to do product marketing there because a lot of times product marketing is very disruptive. I joined back, only about 3 months ago, and they told me, you're going to be establishing this department. You're inheriting one employee we hired, before you were even joining in product marketing. The person's great. But you're also going to be launching this product in 3 months, and it's going to completely transform our business. So I kind of got a little bit of anxiety. I thought, wow, not only going to be establishing this department, but I'm going to be an IC on this new product. And I was coming from Envision, where it was, bigger product marketing department. I was managing some people there, 1,000 employees. It was established to having to really hit the ground running on establishing a department as well as, launching something. And my timing is not something I'm good at. We actually launched this product today. Thanks. So I'm sitting here before this talk on Twitter, refresh, see if anybody's liking my things. But I'll try to forget about that for the next few minutes. So I know this is kind of a simple question, but ask yourself, what is product marketing, right? You have all these kind of academic definitions of it. If you Google it, you get things, like this. We've all seen things like this, where it's this very idealized conception of what product marketing is. You're doing research with customers, and you're out there reading research reports and looking at market data, and you're, if you've got an app, you're looking at the app data, and you're helping with pricing and packaging and so forth. And you're also maybe quarterbacking, marketing launches, and maybe doing a little bit of writing, making a case for your products. Maybe you're doing some sales enablement. Maybe you're training the sales department. You're basically 10 people in one, right? And what I found is that I don't know about you, but that is so idealized and it rarely works out that way. Generally, there's one area in there that you're doing a little bit more of than the other, and somebody's mad at you because you're not doing something, right? Product managers are why aren't you doing the pricing? And then you get the sales department's why aren't you doing more training? And you're getting all this flack all the time because you're not living out this idealized conception of what they read in school about what product marketing is, or what they saw product marketing was done in another company where they worked. And so really, I think your job, and this is something I'm going to talk about, is building product marketing in terms of how you see it being. Where do you think that you can really move the needle as a professional, as an expert on this? And how can you really create a product marketing function that fits your particular company and the people that work there? Not something you've read about, not some Medium post, not something that like your sales leader thinks is what they did at their past company. So you're going to find, depending on the company you work at, that there's going to be different types of cultures that are going to push for different kinds of things. Those of you, who here works in like a very sales-driven culture where there's not like a lot of self-serve? Okay. You probably see something like this, right? Where they're just like constantly coming to you saying like, hey, can you do training? Can you do more sales enablement? My last company, like product marketing basically sold with us. We want you to fly around the world and be an expert, and we're just going to like set the meetings and take the commission checks. And, that's sometimes the culture. I worked at one company, a very large company, where product marketing basically were salespeople. They were experts in the products. The salespeople were just territory managers. They had worked at maybe some other company, the year before. They had relationships. They'd set the meeting, you fly and do that. And that's what the CEO valued. And so, we saw that it worked, and so we didn't really shake it up that much. At, say, like a self-serve culture, who here works in like a non-sales driven culture, self-serve culture with credit card? Okay. So you've probably seen this, where like the product manager's like, hey, I need your help to do research with customers, customer development. I need you to get on the phone with them with me or by yourself because I don't have time. Or I need you to look at the data and say whatever, tool and help me make a case either for pushing back on a CEO maybe who's got a lot of like from the gut instinctual ideas they want to do, or pushing back on the sales leader who wants to build something to win some big deal. Maybe that's more of a sales-driven culture. And so you're serving kind of more of like almost like a pseudo product manager sometimes, it feels like. And basically, this is the kind of sentiment you get, right? And so they're like, show me the data, unless it's their idea, and they're like, they use one customer example. But they're all about show me the data. And so your job is to kind of help them build a case with data, or you to build a case to them for something with data oftentimes. There's another one I don't have a slide for, but I've worked in, is where it's this fusion of both self-serve and sales-driven cultures. Anybody work in one of those where you have both credit card and sales? Okay. I think that's one of the most challenging. If you have a friend or you're one of those people, like practice some self-love today and like pat yourself on the back, because that is super challenging, because you've got almost like warring factions. You've got the product team who's like trying to like plot on how they're going to like not have more salespeople, and they're like leading product-led growth. And then you've got this sales culture over here who like feels like they're not loved and respected and getting the attention they need. And so you as a product marketer are often pulled in from those two different departments to help those two departments work together better and to also kind of like help them move along. This one is interesting. Who here has worked in a company where it feels like the marketing people don't even understand the products or can't even write about them, right? So you're like basically the entire product marketing department in one person, and there's like 80 of them over here. And you're like, what do you do? And so oftentimes those cultures where I've seen is like maybe there's a lot of top of funnel content they're creating that's educational, it's non-self-promotional. And so they're really concentrated on creating that, almost like a media company, media events company type atmosphere. And your job is to more kind of be the first draft of things that they can polish or to educate them on products. So, I'll just skip over that one here. I think our job is basically to analyze the business, talk to the customers, analyze the customers, look at the competitors, and decide what we think product marketing should be. I think it's the bravest way to do it. It's hard, and you're going to get a lot of pushback on it, but hopefully we can share some ideas today that I think will make it a little bit easier. So some of the questions you should ask yourself when you're doing this, research on your company and wanting to build this department or realign it is your business self-serve, sales-driven, or both? That's going to greatly impact how you do product marketing. So if you come from a place, like say you just joined your company and it's self-serve, but you worked in a B2B SaaS company with a big sales department and you're expecting to join and do a lot of sales enablement stuff, probably it's not going to be the case. Like your need is probably going to be more around like research and, maybe even in-app messaging and so forth. If you're maybe come from a self-serve background, and I've seen this probably more often, you come from a self-serve background and you get hired into this like B2B SaaS sales-driven culture, that's kind of like, I see that a lot right now in 2019. You might find that all of a sudden you have salespeople for the first time in your life yelling at you and asking for things and wondering like, what have you done for me lately? And you're like, this is not at all what I did in my last job. My last job, I was working mostly in the marketing department and the product management department. Second, a good question I think to ask is, how are the people resources allocated in your company, right? And have some empathy where there are some gaps. So for example, I worked at one company where we had like a ratio of 1 to 20 product managers for every one product marketer. In that kind of situation, you're going to have to explain to product management, like, hey, I can't be on every single customer call, right? Like, we're going to have to kind of like divide and conquer here. Maybe the marketing department is really tiny and the product marketing department's pretty sizable. You might want to like take that in consideration when you're wondering why like they're not doing more. Or maybe the sales department is really small. They're just starting out. There was a self-serve business and they're just building that touch business. You might have to have some empathy and do some training. That's the case at, for example, Clearbit right now, where it was, a lot of self-serve business. We're just now hiring a lot of salespeople, and I'm sitting there like wondering, like, why can't they sell this product better than me yet? But then I realized that, hey, they've just joined, they didn't work in, say, MarTech previously and so forth. And so I try to have empathy for them. Another thing here is that depending on what industry you work in, if you work in, for example, anybody work in MarTech here? Do you ever feel like you're sometimes the focus group of one, or that you should be considered the focus group of one for products? And I believe you should. So sometimes you might know more about your product than the product managers. And you should voice your opinion. You should say like, hey, I've talked to a lot of customers, and also I am a customer of this, or I've worked in this industry before, and there's this feature that we don't have that competitors have that we should consider. I think a lot of product marketers shy away from that sometimes, and I don't think there's any reason to shy away from it. Where are other departments flailing? Where can you kind of help shore up things is another question you should ask. But ultimately, it's all about you helping grow the business. It's not about you like doing perfect product marketing. It's about you helping like generate revenue, building the business, getting investment, and so forth. So one of the things you're going to need to do once you have your plan in place is to go, and this sounds really basic, but like it's kind of scary, right? Is to go visit these other departments, the leaders, and people who are vocal in departments, and see if you can get aligned. So at Clearbit, I joined in June. Unfortunately, I work at a place where everybody's like super friendly and nice and open and accountable and like transparent. So this was not hard. But I joined in June. I had to like sprint to come up with a plan for the product marketing department based on just my gut instinct that had like zero data, on what was going on. And then go visit, say, the head of sales, the head of product, all the product managers, the marketing department, and ask them like, hey, like this is what I think we should be doing here. And, it's like week 2. Do you agree? Like, where are the gaps? Where are things that you think that I'm not seeing? What is something that you did in your past company with a product marketer that you think we should do here and you've been waiting for? And by getting curious and not like just shoving my ideas down their throat, they opened up and they're like, yeah, like actually I did some homework for you, Jeff. Like here is like a spreadsheet of the things that we could really use in sales. And the product manager was like, you know what I could really use help with is just like building context. I need help talking to customers so that we can make a case to management for not building a feature or building a feature or what have you. The other group is obviously marketing. The marketers have probably been waiting for you. Clearbit, the marketers were playing product marketing. So it was actually kind of nice when I joined that they did a lot of the things that marketers haven't done in past jobs. So this launch we had today, like usually I have to quarterback the launch, bug everybody, nag everybody, get everything done in other companies. Here, like they were just doing it because they had never had somebody to rely on like that, right? So you can kind of find out from them like, hey, do you want me to run launches or do you have that? They're like, no, we got it. So I won't step in your toes in that. Bonus points for this is don't just talk to the leaders, talk to other people. Talk to vocal people who just joined, right? To managers, even like just ICs. Talk to as many people as you can about this because those people might be leaders someday there. And B, not only, leaders have great ideas, but everybody in the company has ideas if you have time to meet with them. Basically, you just got to get empathetic, right? And I feel like we're not really the product marketing departments. We are the department of empathy for companies. And there's probably no one better suited, whether it's like biologically or just like how you've chosen to live your life, than product marketers to be that department, right? Because we're generally pretty sensitive people on one hand, like a lot of marketers, and creative and right-brained. But on the other hand, we have this like left-brain side where we can work with numbers and understand these very rational arguments for things. And that is usually why you end up in product marketing, is because you have both of those sides of your brain. And who else in the company can do this better than you, right? And so you have this opportunity to be awesome and to not only have empathy for these other departments, but to be this almost diplomat between these different departments. Help product management see the importance of, not testing before they run an idea by sales, right? Help sales see that product managers is doing the best they can with the engineering resources they can. So you can build that inter-department empathy. You can bring in empathy for the customer, that voice of the customer we hear that we're supposed to do in product marketing, as well as have empathy for these other departments. So when you're creating this plan, a few things that I recommend including in the plan, and you can create these in a visual format, slides, whatever, it's just whatever your culture is. But what I tend to include are things like, what are the overview of what the PMM should handle? Are you going to handle pricing? Are you going to handle messaging? Are you going to, lead launches, or is the marketing department going to do it? Are you going to do sales enablement? Are you going to do training? Go back to that academic definition of what product marketing is, and decide what you're going to handle and not handle, and then take that in for your alignment exercise. Second, this was actually something I learned from Fran, coworker from Envision, is percentages of time spent in each. This is so important. And it's not black and white. You're not going to be checking your time like an agency person, but you want to kind of build some expectations of the department and say things like, hey, sales, we're probably only going to spend 20% of our time on sales enablement because the other 80% is spent on these other things. So when they come back to you, it's what have you done for me lately? You can remind them remember, this is what we aligned on in terms of percentages spent. Third, you're going to need a proposal for who's going to handle the disputed areas. So if you're not handling the pricing, you need to say hey, my proposal is that product management is going to own this. Or let's say that they want you to handle sales training for new salespeople, not just sales enablement. Hey, you guys are going to need to hire somebody to handle this. I can handle it temporarily or what have you. And then last, don't just talk about, I don't know how Siri got on there. Did I say the word Siri? I don't think I did. You need to not only talk about what they want from you, but what do you want from them? This is the most overlooked thing in any presentation I make. They skip past that slide in my deck. Because I think a lot of people look at product marketing as a services organization, right? And you're not. You're a leader in the company. So you're going to want certain things from them. Maybe you want to know about new packaging before sales rolls it out so that you can weigh in on it and bring your own data for why you should or shouldn't do something, or the messaging for it. Maybe product management is going to change copy in the product, in-app copy, and there's no UX copywriter. You probably want to weigh in on that, right? So you want to make it very clear what you're going to be asking and bothering them about, and it's not just going to be this situation where you're sitting back waiting to take orders from other departments. So as part of this plan, pretty easy, pretty intuitive here, but present your ideas to the stakeholders, get their feedback, come back again and say look, I listened to your feedback. This is my, adjusted plan. If possible, and this is something that sometimes I forget to do. I didn't do this at Clearbit, but we did this at Envision, is present your ideas for what product marketing should be to the whole company. Because what often happens is you're aligned with the VP of sales and the VP of marketing, but they didn't tell the rest of the department. And all of a sudden, 6 months later, you have this product manager coming to you and saying hey, why aren't you helping me with customer research? So if you can, be brave, even if people say yeah, I don't think we need to do that. Try to present it to the whole company and take those questions. When new leaders join, you're going to have to realign, unfortunately, and present to them. They're going to be coming in guns a-blazing, with all kinds of ideas, wanting to make a name for themselves right away, oftentimes, and have ideas from where they worked. And you're going to need to align with them on what you're doing. So basically, you're just trying to avoid this, right? If you do this alignment up front and you do it repeatedly, when new people join or just to remind people, you'll get less of this. You'll get less of this tension, this anger from sales department, from product management and so forth that, because you listened to them, you aligned with them, you got their buy-in, and everybody likes that, right? We like that when they do that with us. They like it when we do with them. And basically, alignment never rests. You're always going to be aligning. And I know sometimes, I've worked with people that are in marketing from small startups, and they find this kind of icky that they have to do this alignment. It feels like they're a politician or they're a congressperson lobbying for some type of new bill. It's just the reality. Particularly as your company gets bigger, you're always going to be aligning with these other departments because you sit in the middle of sales, product, and marketing. So that's it. I appreciate your time. if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Hi, thank you for this. This is fantastic. I have a question in the alignment. Have you ever found yourself kind of butting heads a little bit with business development when it comes to messaging and those types of tactical components?
With the partnerships department?
Correct.
Yes. Yes, I don't know why that is. Yes, and it's usually because I did a poor job of aligning with them. Like I forgot them, right? Like I talked to customer success, I talked to sales, and I forgot the partnerships department. And I think they often feel that way, that they're almost like even more of a stepchild than we can be, and everybody forgets about them. And they're out there building these huge partnerships with channel opportunities that can build the business faster than a salesperson could. And they just don't feel listened to. And so what I've tried to do is when I feel that tension, I try to just reset with them and get to know that person personally and go to them and be like, hey, I'm really sorry. I didn't align with you. And that was that was rude. And let's talk about it, and hear from them what's going to be specifically needed for partnerships versus regular go to market.
Hello. Have you ever had any challenges with product teams, maybe because there wasn't a marketing team previously, that think they're marketing?
Yes. So the question I think was, does product management think they're marketing sometimes because there's not marketing there, right? Yes. Even when there is marketing there, they can do that, right? Yeah, that's just, I think, just product. I mean, product managers, that just must be part of their DNA. I think they often think that about everything. It's it's not just you getting that, but sales is getting that, the CEO's hearing that, engineers hearing that, and I just tend to ignore it. And explain to them, it's really sad, but you sometimes have to do that maneuver where you're you have to build credibility with them. You're well, when I worked at Amazon, we did this, right? Because they often think that they know everything, and you kind of almost have to win their respect. And they're so in their heads sometimes that they don't even take time to LinkedIn check you, right? And that you've done things before. So I think it's just important to kind of build credibility with them and over time just gain their trust by doing great launches and fighting for things for them that, they'll stop doing that.
Hi. I love the idea of going on a roadshow internally and presenting the product marketing team to other stakeholders. Would you recommend still doing that if you're not quite ready to receive requests? So for instance, if I was going to go to the head of sales, the head of partnerships, the head of CS, as soon as you do that, they're going to start asking you for things. They're going to say, well, my team really needs this in product marketing, and my team really needs this. And it's well, I wasn't quite ready to accommodate your request at this moment because we don't have headcount, we don't have a design resources, we don't have any of this. Or they just pass things on to you because they don't want to do it.
Yep.
And yet here's a volunteer saying, I'm new, I want to establish this for the organization. And so you don't want to be that person that's well, that's not really my job either.
Right.
So I guess my question is, when do you think is the right moment in time to go on this internal roadshow for your product marketing?
That's a great question. I've dealt with that dynamic before. Unfortunately, you are going to have to do some things for them. So one of the things that I do, I kind of build a service level agreement with them, and I put it in writing. And I'll say, look, you're going to have things. You probably have a long list right now that you've been waiting for me to join. Years you've been sitting there like this, waiting. And I'm only one person, and I'm not going to be able to do all these things, but I'm going to do some things for you. And we're going to align on what those things are. It's going to be a combination of what I think we should do and what you think we should do. And one of the things I recommend doing is doing that talk 1 month before the quarter starts. And start actually pushing your company, no matter the size of your company, to start doing quarterly planning around marketing. And say look, before the quarter starts, you're going to give me all your ideas. I'm going to come to you every quarter before the quarter starts, and you're going to give me all your ideas, and then I'm going to come back to you and tell you the ones that I can do. And I'm not going to be able to do all of them, I'm sorry. But if you do that, then there's less of that like throughout the quarter, them coming back and pinging you for ideas because you already aligned on what it is. Another thing to do is like maybe have like a form. You know, like on Asana, we have like forums, right, where you can like enter things in. I'll often have a forum where everybody can publish their ideas throughout the quarter, and then I compile those all and say like, hey, like these are the ones we're going to do this quarter. But it is unfortunate that you probably will have to do some things for them. You just won't have to do everything that they ask for.
So I work for a big company, and messaging is something that is owned by a lot of different stakeholders. So sales enablement has messaging, and campaigns has messaging, and content has messaging. And I'm coming in relatively new. So do you have any advice on how to kind of like rein in disparate messaging and making it more cohesive from kind of a product marketing perspective?
Are you personally passionate about there being cohesive messaging? Or are you okay with there being a little bit of like variety?
I'm okay with there being a little bit of variety, but I think that people are just recreating the wheel a little bit. So I've been trying to educate around like kind of the difference between positioning and messaging of like, hey, positioning comes from product marketing and has a good foundation for you to start with. So we don't have such variation, but
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think in big companies it's particularly challenging, right? I think one of the first things is to do is decide whether you care, right? If you're personally passionate about it, it's going to be a battle probably to rein all those cats in. If you don't care, you know, you can kind of let it go a little bit. But if you do care, I recommend doing a positioning messaging exercise and be like, hey, we're going to do a positioning messaging exercise. And they've probably been waiting to do this, honestly. And get together those stakeholders and go through the whole, like, for what buyer, we do X, Y, Z, for what benefit. Unlike the competition, we do this. You know, it's the classic framework on positioning messaging. And then get them all to align, present it back to them, and be like, hey, this should be, if everybody agrees here, you were all part of this, this should be the foundational messaging we use for everything. You can kind of riff on it with your talking points, but this should be the foundational messaging. And I find that by going through that fun exercise, they oftentimes align a little bit better.
All right. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
So I love this.